with the lesson for October the 18th. It's called Listen to Nature, part of our deep listening series. I'm going to light the chalice so we can get started. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Our faith reminds us that deep listening to nature is healing. Our seventh principle encourages us to affirm and promote respect for the interdependence web of all existence of which we are a part. When we practice deep listening to nature, we are taken to a place of calm, knowing that we are not isolated and alone, but instead part of something so interconnected. So, what's one of the ways our faith guides us into becoming a people of deep listening? It tells us, listen to nature. Have you ever listened to a cricket sing? Well, I don't have an actual cricket, but it sounds something like this. I'll play some real cricket sounds for you later on. And they don't just sing and chirp. They have lots of different voices that they use. Only male crickets sing or chirp. And they achieve this by using their stridulatory organ, which is located on the tegmen or the forewing. On each tegmen, the crickets have a vein running along it with serrations, kind of like the comb, along the edge, and making it almost like a comb. At the end of the tegmen, they also have a scraper. The cricket will move the wings on each other and produce a noise which goes through the harp, which is a part of their body that has a lot of membrane to amplify and resonate the volume of the sound, causing a chirp. I printed some pictures I hope you can see. This is what a cricket looks like. And here is its wing, where it has the special organs, and it's got these scraper things that make it vibrate and resonate. And when the cricket moves his wings like that, one over the other, it causes the singing or the chirping. I love the sound of crickets singing. When we listen deeply in the evening, we can often hear crickets. In my neighborhood, there's another kind of insect that likes to live up in the oak trees and sing right at sunset. It's called a katydid, and it's sort of in the cricket family. Listening to the deep sounds of nature makes us feel calm, and listening deeply can help us heal from the busyness of our everyday lives when we're removed from the web of life. We can rest gently knowing that we are interconnected with all of nature. I'm going to play something on my phone for you, and it's called the Cricket Symphony. And after I play a little bit of it, I'll tell you a story about how it was made. That's called a Cricket Symphony, and you can find it on YouTube, and we will include a link so that you can listen to it yourself. There are lots of versions of that. One of them is called Twisted Hair. You can also find that on YouTube. So if you put in Twisted Hair by Robbie Robertson, it has Native Americans speaking while the cricket is singing. And it has, let's see, that one was explained in 2004 by Bonnie Jo Hunt, and she's a Native American opera singer. And when she was approached to work on that track that Robbie Robertson recorded called Twisted Hair, this is what she said. I do a lot of traveling because our nonprofit organization, we work with children on self-improvement, so I'm out on the reservations much of the time. And I had these messages saying that Robbie Robertson wanted to get in touch with me. So I went into the studio and he said, I want you to do whatever you feel like. And now these are the crickets. And he played the cricket song. So I thought, oh my goodness, I am to accompany crickets? See? And when I heard them, I felt ashamed of myself. I was so humble because I had not given them enough respect. Jim Wilson, who recorded the crickets in his backyard, brought the sounds into the studio and went ahead and he lowered the pitch, and he lowered it and lowered it and slowed it down, and they sound exactly like a well-trained human choir to me. And not only that, but it sounded like they were singing on an 8-tone scale. And so they started low, and that would sound like, in musical terms, like an interlude, and then another part sounded like a chorus, and then an interval, and then another chorus, and they kept singing higher and higher. They were saying cricket words. I kept thinking, oh, I can almost understand them. It's a nice, mellow tone, and they never went off pitch until one of the interludes where they went really crazy, and they got back on track again to where they were. And I know that people do not think they are listening to crickets unless they're told that's what it is. So I'm going to play you the sound of one cricket now so you can hear how one cricket sounds. This is one cricket at normal speed. Maybe you'll be able to see him on the screen. I don't know. Let's see if I can make that work. See his wings vibrating? So the cricket helped us get ready for our story. And our story today is about the beautiful sounds of nature. And it's by a famous American author named Henry David Thoreau. And he lived back in a time where people didn't have televisions and even radios. This is from a writing called H.D. Thoreau and the Still Small Voice, The Power of Stillness, and this part is called Sing to the Power. Henry David Thoreau sat in front of his little cabin on one of his 3 chairs listening to the evening. If you were there, you might have thought there was nothing to listen to. Certainly there was no TV, no iPod, no iPad, no computer, no YouTube. Those wouldn't be around for another 100 years or more. There was no one to talk to, no planes overhead, No radio coming from next door. Mr. Emerson's closest neighbor, Mr. Emerson is the one that owned the cabin, the closest neighbor was over a mile away, and he wouldn't have had a radio anyway. Even the natural world was still. No wind rippled the pond, and the birds had stopped singing as the evening approached. Still, Henry listened for the tiniest sound, a small fish breaking the surface of the water and splashing down again, the crackle of leaves made by a mouse as he passed by, maybe the sound of wings overhead as a crow flew over. To him, these miniature sounds were music. Of course, most of the townspeople thought Henry was crazy when he decided to build a cabin used from used materials that he found out on a site by Walden Pond that was on a woods owned by Ralph Waldo Emerson, another important writer and great thinker of his time. Why would a promising writer want to move away from society to sit with the birds and bugs for company? In fact, Henry enjoyed the company of Emerson and other thinkers who shared his transcendental philosophy. However, to Henry, the quiet of the pond and the animals and plants that lived and in and around it provided excellent company. Sometimes Henry thought the conversation you learn more when you just sit and listen. As he watched the last rays of light glisten on the pond, Henry thought about a Bible story about a prophet named Elijah. Elijah crawled off to a mountain cave to listen for what God wanted him to do. While Elijah stood outside his cave, a great wind came and whipped around the boulders, causing them to crash down. It was pretty crazy. And then he listened, but that wasn't God in the wind. Then an earthquake rattled the mountain with a terrific rumbling. But that also wasn't the voice of God in the earthquake. Next came a fire, sweeping across the rocks and the brush outside, red and roaring and grand. But the fire wasn't God either. Finally, after all the roaring and crashing, everything became quiet again. Elijah stood there, shaking, wrapped in his cloak, just waiting. And out of the silence, there came a still, small voice that he thought must be God. I'm not at all sure, Henry thought, that I believe in the God of the Bible, the one who chatted with Elijah. But whatever God is, I'm pretty sure I know it better out here in the quiet than I would through the ranting of a sermon in church. Maybe God is speaking to me in a small, still voice of the jumping fish and the rustling leaves and the still pond and the stars beginning to peek out through the trees. Maybe I hear God when my heart is still and I can listen with my very smallest inner ear. Maybe. And his thoughts drifted off with a small breeze that came and ruffled his hair and rippled across the lake. What a lovely, calm feeling I get from this story. It makes me ready for the meditation. So now I'll pass the microphone so we can all do meditation together. Namaste. See you next time.
I invite you to move into our meditation position. Sit comfortably in your chair or on the floor. Put your hands on your lap or on your knees. Sit up nice and tall and focus your eyes in front of you. Find your breath, breathing in your body by taking one breath in through your nose and slowly breathing it out of your mouth. In our wonderful space of our meditation, now let's go on some imaginary coyote ears and listen to all the things around you. First, listen to the sounds that you have by you, the noises near you. Hold the silence for as long as you can, for about 30 seconds. Let's hold it. Next, let's listen deeply for noises you might not have heard previously. Hold the silence as long as you guys are comfortable with each other. And let's talk about the sounds that we haven't heard. So, is it hard to listen to nature where you live? Is nature only outside of our houses? When you listen to nature, the voices of nature, are they sometimes scary? What nature sounds are most common to you? So for me, my nature sound that's most common is rain and water. Anything with water, I am relaxed and put at ease. So that's why I chose the icon that I did prior to when we were getting to our centering space so that I can share that with you. Another sound I love is wind. Just the howl of the wind moving through the trees. I love those sounds. Super peaceful. I'm just taking a moment. So, I'm going to wrap up this lesson today. Miss Trish, thank you so much for your segment. I'm going to go right into exploring it. So, there are some small group activities that you guys can do together. Deep listening to nature helps us heal and calms us by reminding us of our interconnectedness. Think of our existence like a huge spider web. A huge spider web, right? And kind of speaking of which, hold on just a second. Huge spider, right? Now, no one will want this spider coming towards them. But I think you pretty much get my point about the interconnectedness of our space. So as a way of reminding ourselves to practice deep listening and feel part of the choir of creatures, we'll create a Cricket Symphony. So what you do is get a comb and run your finger. You can get a plastic bag or something. Just any random object. I'm sorry, little guy. Any random object you feel to bring it all together. And parents, I'll have the links after this video so you guys can go ahead and check out these things and what you guys can do together. So awesome. Just for you guys, parents. During the small group time for this section, we focus on how we are healed by feeling connected to the web of life through our deep listening. We talked about how listening to nature reminds us that we are a part of what's considered like a choir of creatures. To explore and celebrate this, we learned how to make a simple comb, kazoo, or saxophone. So if you'd like, you can have your child demonstrate it for you. I'm also going to provide the link so you guys can check it out in your own time. Also, there's another thing you can do. You can also consider joining a family nature club and read Vitamin N for Nature by Richard Louv. While this movement started before COVID, outdoors with social distancing may of course be possible. So I want to just leave you guys with that. You guys have an absolutely wonderful, wonderful rest of your Sunday, and I will see you all soon. Bye. All right, so now this next part, Jeanay, I want you to cut this scene so we can get the next part done for the following week's meditation. So I want you to drop the mindful movement video that she created and drop it in that space, and then you go into this script. Make sure you introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Jeanay Johnson, and I'm the RE and Communications Coordinator here at Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Pete, Florida. And we're going right into our mindfulness meditation, so I hope you are nice and centered in your spaces, and we are ready to go. So, when we think of those who have died long ago, or more recently, one way to remember them is to imagine them now through our memories. Memories are the stories about the person and the wisdom we were given from that person, their life and their words, their actions and their choices. We are made strong for our own lives when we listen to what we have learned from that person's life. Now listen now to this chant. I'm going to play a chant for you. While listening, draw a picture in your memory of a loved one, and share and think about basically how you love them and how they loved you. Think about the best enrichment parts of who they are to you. Remember, animals are also loved ones, so it's great if you draw them too. For me, my animal that passed away, his name was Riley. His full name was Riley Twinkle Toes McGee III, aka Bandit. He was a Siamese kitten and super sweetheart, but he did fall ill because I did find him off the side of the road, and it was just some things that the doctors couldn't catch. But the love that we shared for one another, I still have that very near and dear because he was my sweet boy. He was my big boy. So I myself I've worked in hospice settings before, and I have worked with people, and one day the person's in bed and I'm helping them get showered and clothed and cleaned, and the next day the bed is empty because they have passed on. The one thing that I've learned about so many people that have passed on before me is one thing that they all ring true and they all agree with each other, even though they have no idea who each other are. They agree that do what you can do for yourself now. Don't wait until you're older and you're not able to, but while you're spriteful, go for it. If you have a goal, go for it. If you have an idea, something that needs to be created, go for it. Because the one thing that I hear from older people that's in the space of transitioning is another word to say they're going to be going from living to deceased. So in that space of transitioning, they have vocalized, they have said that one thing that they wanted to do was anything that they wanted to do. They wanted to travel. One thing I've heard a few times is if you're sorry about something, say sorry. If something, not to say is your fault, but if there's something that can be changed about a situation where words are not being said, but they really should, these people have always said, speak up. Because you never know. We never know. We really don't. So, I also want to share with you guys, let's think about it. What holiday is coming up that actually recognizes and celebrates the deceased? Now, I know that might come off kind of weird, celebrating the deceased. What? However, the deceased is also a part of our living space. This is our part of what happens with all of us eventually one day, because before we were here, we weren't here. And after we are gone, we won't be here anymore, right? Super interesting how this is, because we are just here. We're just being. We're just moving around one another, learning about this whole space and what that really even means. So I want you guys to take that, explore that. Be sure to definitely go over the newsletter and check out the small group activities and experimental learning I have attached. Now, one of the things is it's a remembrance sharing ritual. Now, I would introduce this as a time of tenderness when we are all remembering the loss that we feel. One part of remembrance is about sharing is being deeply open to listen to each other's stories. So listening to someone and really just allowing them to speak is another way you can be a people of deep listening. And that is the theme of this month, right? So just taking that time. So I invite your families to find photos or any type of objects that have memories that reminds them of someone, a being or a pet that has died. One by one, I want each child to share the short description of who they are missing. So I want them to share what's meant to them that that person has done for them. Also, explain that the wisdom and memories that outlive a person or a pet, that is their legacy. Okay? So afterwards, you can give your child a candle or a sticker or something. But learning how to listen deeply to each other helps by sharing the universal experience of loss. It helps us know that we are not alone. One of those things that I want to speak about, the universal experience of loss. One thing that does happen when somebody passes away whom we love, we don't actually see them anymore. But it's not entirely a loss. It is part of our experience to go on one day. Now, however that is worded with your families, it's totally up to you how to share with your kids. So, I hope you guys check out the newsletter and see the nice activities that I've attached to it. And I hope to see you all next week for the drive-through trunk or treat and food drive. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Bye. Hey parents, Jeanay Johnson here. I'm your religious education and communications coordinator here at Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg, Florida. We are having a drive-through fall festival October 31st between the hours of 5 to 6:30 p.m. Parents, you're more than welcome to bring out your vehicles and deck it out for this holiday special. Now, also, this is a combination, This is a combination of a food drive as well. All the food will be donated to our Southside Food Bridge. Now, the goal is to bring as much non-perishable foods as you can. And we're going to fill up the purple monster mouth at this event, all right? This event is transpiring in our parking lot, our new parking